making it free energy.
I want you to see it goes negative more than it stays positive. It means the battery is being charged by the system that's going to change your world in a most positive way. We'll be able to totally redo the earth again for our children and our grandchildren. And we will travel even into outer space by electromagnetic energy. We can set up a manufacturing plant in every country in the world and make every country in the world energy independent of every other country in the world. I've always said this technology will do more to bring world peace than all the kings and queens and politicians who've ever lived. Let's see what kind of power we have on this shaft right here. I'll try to choke this down. You saw me pushing 900 pounds, 14 reps. That's 1 3/4 horsepower, 14 times. I should easily be able to choke down 24 mere watt input power. I'll try that and see if I can do it. There you can see that no matter how hard I try, you can't overcome that input of 24 watts.
I'm sorry, but an inventor holding a shaft in his hands is hardly proper calibrated instrumentation. This demonstration is meaningless and hardly the proper level of proof one would expect for such a claim.
This machine is running from the gyroscopic particles coming from the atoms of this mass.
Joe Newman has written a book in which he claims this form of energy, which requires converting magnetism into electricity, could supersede all others, including fossil fuels and nuclear power.
From 1965 to 1975, I gave a unified mechanical field theory, mechanics explaining gravity, electricity, magnetism, inertia, wave and particle theory of light. None of those things ever had a mechanical explanation behind it. Not Einstein, not Faraday, not Tesla, not Edison. No one could explain one of them. I explained them all with the mechanical laws of a gyroscope.
Joe was refused a patent on the basis that his machine simply didn't work, and that what he was claiming was a form of perpetual motion, which of course conventional science has always said was impossible.
I was so certain that it worked when I applied for a patent, I didn't even build it. My patent attorney told me that nobody would believe me unless I built it. I built it, it worked exactly as the theory predicted. I have given my life for humanity, stood against great odds, against the U.S. government, who has fought this tooth and nail, tried to keep it away from you. And many congressmen, 11 congressmen, introduced bills into Congress to issue this patent, to see that it would be produced for hundreds of millions of people across the earth. And that's the quote from them, that there was a conspiracy by the U.S. Patent Office and named Thomas Penfield Jackson, who's an SOB, who tried to stop this technology.
Norman Wotton is another free energy inventor who has come up against the Patent Office of America.
In December 1994, myself and Joel McLean presented to the world a device known as the MRA. The MRA produces more output energy than the energy necessary to drive the circuit. It has been independently tested and verified by 6 different agencies, with the final output figures as being 256 times more energy out than energy input. This information was provided through the National Security Agency, who we strongly suspect at the 11th hour caused the patent to be denied at the Patent Office, rejected with no explanation as to the reason for rejection.
It's hard to believe, you know, here we are surrounded by the clouds and the mountains and, you know, the sky, and we're surrounded in a sea of energy.
Dan Davidson, who has degrees in both physics and mathematics, believes the pyramids of Egypt hold the secret to free energy, and he has written a book that describes how certain shapes attract energy from the atmosphere, with the pyramid shape being the most efficient. But he too claims to have been sidelined by the Patent Office of America.
There's a thing known as a classified patent system, which hardly anybody knows about. And every time you apply for a patent, it goes through a screening by someone from the Department of Defense here in this country as well as other countries. And if this device has any kind of defense-associated interest, they can classify the information, the patent, and tell the inventor to go pound sand.
Free energy, the nature that we're talking about, would be a very disruptive technology, at least initially. It would put out of business many people who make their living and make their profit from conventional energy sources. Sooner or later, though, the transition from the conventional to the free has to take place, simply because we're running out of conventional fuels.
There is no argument from mainstream science that we are running out of gas, oil, and coal, the fossil fuels that have so polluted our Earth. However, the only alternative conventional science has thus far come up with is nuclear power, with all its dangers and pollution consequences. And yet there are other sources of energy that, while they may not be the complete solution, they must surely be worth investigating.
Around the turn of the century, eminent British scientist Lord Kelvin said that radio has no future, heavier-than-air flying machines are impossible, and X-rays are a hoax. So much for conventional science. It turns out that all of the world's thunderstorms are charging the ionosphere, and if you put up an antenna maybe 30 feet, 50 feet tall, you can run this motor anywhere on the Earth, and it'll just run forever as long as there's thunderstorms somewhere. And we can simulate a thunderstorm with a Van de Graaff machine here. Here's our artificial thundercloud, puts out maybe 300,000 volts. So if I connect myself in the circuit, the motor runs. So here's free energy that could be used all over the world. Plug it into the sky.
You could harness electrical energy from a cloud and run a small motor with it. But the problem is that a lightning strike occurring could fry the motor and possibly you with it.
21, 22.
Maybe I am dreaming, but I can see it run.
Why am I obsessed with these non-round wheels? Wobbly wheels that don't wobble. I can justify it and say I'm trying to do toy research, but that's not the real answer. It's just, I'm fascinated.
We had a real neat experience with anti-gravity experiment. New Energy News published an article about...
One fascination common to many free energy devotees is anti-gravity as a source of free energy.
But the killer application right now is Professor Grebennikov from Russia.
Well, what Grebennikov did was he mounted a huge number of these bug wings and built it into a small platform. And the platform he actually flew around Russia on. Here's the little handlebars. It was kind of like a motorcycle handlebars, and he would manipulate these handlebars, and this column was hollow, and it would manipulate the bug wings that were built down into the inside of this platform. And he claimed that he was flying around at almost 1,000 miles an hour, up to 1,000 miles an hour with this particular platform. Grebennikov has since died, and we found out that he destroyed the platform a number of years ago. He felt that this technology would be misused and probably add more problems to the environment. He was a very strict environmentalist.
He goes out and kills 100 of these insects, rips off their covers, glues them to a board so they're all facing up. He drops a metal pin. The pin floats in the air over this board. He turns the board upside down. The board floats in the air. Now they're projecting down, so it's deflecting gravity. So he builds this levitating platform, and he said he used popsicle sticks, flat popsicle sticks, and he would take 10 of these shells and glue them to the top of each of these popsicle sticks, put them all together, put a shaft down in the middle, and when he turns the shaft, all these popsicle sticks open like a Japanese fan. And he has motorcycle hand grips, so when he turns one hand grip, it opens the 2 popsicle sticks in the front. When he turns the other hand grip, it opens the 2 in the back. When he opens them partially, he floats up off the ground. When he opens them all the way, he goes up to 1,000 feet in the air. When he wants to go forward, he half closes the 2 in the front, so he tilts like a surfer.
Grabenikov's flying bug machine may appear to some to be more science fiction than fact, but of course sometimes fact can be a lot stranger than fiction.
You see, there's a difficult choice to be made here. You don't want to have these energies introduced too rapidly. You want them to be introduced at a rate at which they can be accommodated as the conventional energies are phased out. And this is a very delicate dance that has to take place.
Remember that material that they found down in Australia? Right. From that flying object that crashed. I mean, that honeycomb matrix.
Whether you talk about stuff from like the old Roswell crash to you name it, though they keep coming up with that same kind of structure.
25 honeycombs per square inch. And that was the dimensions. So if you were to stimulate that electrostatically, you might be able to produce some kind of a coupling with the ether zero-point energy to couple with gravity to cause levitation.
New ideas are very frequently generated by people who are very strange. And it's very easy to reject their ideas just by virtue of their strange personalities.
Where is the power coming from? Maybe some people from the universe was coming here in the beginning.
There is one man who claims to have been visited by aliens who apparently taught him all the secrets of anti-gravity, perpetual motion and free energy. And so we are told, lest he forget anything, they planted a memory device in his head.
I went to the doctor and he says, how the hell is that? Well, I said, it must be an implant. If you have an implant, you have to work according to that implant. Those three beings are within me automatically. While I'm working, I don't think about my wife, I don't think about the house, I don't think about nothing except my work.
David Hamill is a Canadian recluse. He is a brilliant carpenter and metal worker and is currently building his own free energy flying saucer on instructions, he says, from the aliens.
Those three beings came from the planet Cladden, the other side of us. There's two planets, Earth, Cladden, and in between, what do you think is there in between? There's the ionosphere. You can't go to it unless you use granite. I wouldn't be surprised the little ship that took off from me is up there in pieces. I took pictures of that, and I only got 6 pictures that were good enough.
Apparently, David Hamill's prototype had taken off on its own, and according to David, the Canadian Air Force are still looking for it.
You can read everything in there. This is the floor with a stairway to go upstairs. Now,
Colon therapy and an advertisement for Robinson's Jam seem to have somehow got mixed up with the design for David's flying saucer. And here, in the center of the Great Pyramid, so David says, is where Saddam Hussein